Jason, this was just yesterday. I had somebody bring up on a call-in show DJ Uiagalelei to me and how bad he was, and I said, absolutely, he was not the quarterback that he needed to be for this level of program. He's certainly disappointed. Certainly, that first year was even worse, and then he got a little bit better last year. But let's understand the wide receiver play, and we've talked about this a number of times, and I'm sure you've written about it a zillion times. Just to take the level of play at that position at this school from about 2012 or 13 to just a couple years ago, that was arguably the best in college football, and then just guys out there, guys that you would expect to see at a mid-tier school somewhere in the Big 10 or the Big 12 or something. And just the wide receiver play has got to get better.
Oh, absolutely. There is absolutely no denying that wide receiver play has been one of the biggest problems on the offensive side of the ball the past couple of years. Probably the second biggest thing outside of the lackluster quarterback play. Lots of drops, just a lack of physicality compared to what we've seen in years past, blocking on the perimeter. Just you name it, man, and we've seen it. I think there are a lot of things that kind of led to it being this way. I think you miss on some guys. You miss on a guy here and there. He's not what you thought he was going to be. And the biggest thing is Clemson's just had a ton of injuries. Can't keep those guys healthy. And that's going to be the biggest thing this year. You're looking at Bo Collins, Adam Randall, and Antonio Williams being your three key guys at receiver. And Randall had multiple injuries last year, tore ACL before the season started. Not sure he ever was fully healthy when he came back, and then suffered a finger injury or a hand injury. I can't remember specifically what it was, but and Bo Collins has been a guy that struggled with injuries at times too. Those guys have got to stay healthy for you this season. They just have to. There's not a ton of experience depth behind them. I like what Clemson's done with the wide receiver room in the last recruiting class. I think they got a lot of value with some of those guys, but I'm not sure how much of an impact they're going to make as freshmen. Another guy that's been hurt his first 2 years is Troy Stellato. Very, very fast guy. Was one of the fastest guys in his recruiting class. Has, barely seen the field. He's played very few snaps his first 2 seasons. He also tore ACL before the season last year. Be interesting to see if he can stay healthy, and if he does stay healthy, how much of those injuries is, had an impact. How much of those injuries impacted his speed? Because that is something Clemson's lacked on the perimeter last couple of years is speed. Ronan Hannafin's kind of a wild card. Not an early enrollee, another freshman receiver. He was your highest rated receiver coming out of high school, but he might be a guy that needs a year. Big body guy. He's got some wheels. He can move. And then you got Tyler Brown. He's a freshman, not an early enrollee. Smaller guy, under 6 foot tall, if I'm remembering that right. But he is a burner. He's a guy that's going to give you some speed. Of those freshman receivers, including Noble Johnson, I forgot to mention him. He was the only early enrollee Clemson had at receiver in 2023. And I think he's got an extremely high ceiling. We've talked about him a bunch of times. I think he's going to be really good. But after watching him in the spring, I think he might be a guy that needs a year. Of those guys, I think Tyler Brown might be the one that can impact this team this year the most. He's got the speed. He's just quick as a hiccup, man. He makes plays in space. He can get you some yards after the catch, and that's some of the things that this offense has lacked in recent years. And I think he can give you that. We'll see how early he gets an opportunity, and when he does get his opportunity, we'll see what he does with it. But this wide receiver room has to be better this year. And for me, first and foremost, it starts with keeping Bo Collins and Adam Randall healthy, because I expect Antonio Williams to take a massive jump from what we saw as a freshman. You know what you're going to get out of him.
Jason, we've had too many conversations. You're anticipating my next question. So I was going to ask you about the breakout guy for the 2023 class. You covered that. I was going to ask you about, I understand the legacy is ridiculous when you talk about Watkins and Hopkins and Bryant and Scott and Renfro and Ross, and we could keep going. But Antonio Williams, would he be the likely candidate to be that kind of guy?
I don't know. We'll see. When I think of that kind of guy, Antonio played mostly in the slot last year. When I think of that kind of guy, I think of, I call him the alpha dog. You need an alpha dog. Clemson's not had an alpha dog the past since T. Higgins left, really. You haven't had that alpha wide receiver. And when I think of the alpha guy, I'm not necessarily thinking of a slot guy. I'm thinking of a guy on the outside who can just take over a game when you need him to, like Mike Williams did against Alabama, like we saw T. Higgins do on multiple occasions. We saw Sammy Watkins do it, New Hopkins do it. Saw Martavis Bryant do it from time to time. We've seen a number of guys take on that role. I don't know if Antonio's that guy or not. I think and that's not to knock Antonio Williams, because I think he's already proven that he's going to be a good receiver at this level. I think he's going to be even better this year. For me, if there's one guy on the roster right now that has that potential, I think it's Randall. Big guy. He can move. He's faster than he looks. I know it didn't really look like it when he was on the field last year, but again, I don't think he was ever fully recovered from that knee injury. He's a guy I watched a lot coming up through high school. I think he's a guy that can kind of, when you need him to, he can put your offense on his back and carry you. I think he's got that kind of talent, that kind of potential. Again, he's just got to stay healthy. To me, that's the key thing with him. We've seen some of those videos they put out of the highlight reel catches he's made during practice before he got hurt last year. We just need to see that translate onto the field of play in real games. And again, he's got to stay healthy.
Folks, we've got an Amazon link in the description section of all the videos. If you grab the Amazon link and use that when you shop on Amazon, you help us grow and build the channel. And it's the same exact shopping experience for you. Doesn't change in any way, and it doesn't cost you a penny. We got Jason Priester here breaking down Clemson's offense. Let's go back to the tight ends. Jake Briningstool, 25 catches last year, 4 touchdowns. Davis Allen, is he gone?
Yeah, he's gone. He is in the NFL now. So
okay.
This is Briningstool's job, and he's going into his, third year with the team. Big tight end target, man. He can be what I call a matchup nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators. And I think there are a lot of different ways Garrett Riley's going to be able to use Briningstool in this offense. We just got to see how that translates. How much is he split out wide? How much is he lined up inside? I tend to think he's going to be split out a lot in this Garrett Riley offense. And he took a big jump between his freshman, sophomore seasons. I think he's going to take another big jump now that he's the guy. Behind him, you have Sage Enos, who is probably known more for his blocking than his pass-catching abilities. And there's Josh Sapp, who redshirted last year, who I think has the potential to take a big jump in his development this year. And I think he could be a contributor at some point this season. We'll see how it works out on the depth chart behind Briningstool if Enos can hold off Sapp. And there's a couple of intriguing freshmen that are coming in. Marcus Dixon and Olsen Pat Henry, two what I thought were very underrated tight ends. Probably going to redshirt this year, at least one of them. There's a lot to like about both those guys. They are very talented pass catchers. I think they'll fit in well with this offense in the future.
Because Briningstool isn't the big inline, mauler, massive, big body guy. He's more angular, tall, big wingspan.
6'7". He's a big guy, but he's tall and thin. He's more of a pass catcher than a blocker. So I tend to think we're going to see him lined up out wide a lot. That's where his strengths are, catching the ball down the field, and being that safety valve for the quarterback and stretching the field.
Jason Priester, allclemsontigers.com. Got to get on over there. Check out Jason's work. Jason, we appreciate you. We're always leaning on you for the latest, and thanks for stopping by.
Anytime, man. My pleasure. Appreciate you having me.